Welcome to the INFOWARS Nightly News. It's Tuesday, December 23rd, 2014, and I'm McAdoo. Here are tonight's top stories.
Tonight, Rand Paul moves to demilitarize the police. Then, the FBI seeks to tie Ferguson rioters to ISIS. And the free speech war surrounding the interview. That's next on the INFOWARS Nightly News.
Tell you one thing, I've got every right to destroy the image of the so-called emperor, and I'll do it anytime I please. You understand that, you scumbag, New World Order filth?
New York City held a moment of silence today for the two police officers who were shot there Saturday by a lone gunman. Now, Mayor de Blasio and other politicians have called for a cooling of tensions after the officers were ambushed, shocking a city that has seen largely peaceful protests in recent weeks. Now, these same protesters who have been rallying for weeks rejected the mayor's plea to suspend demonstrations. Some organizers say the mayor's call for a suspension of democracy and the exercise of free speech rights in the face of ongoing injustice is outrageous. Now, de Blasio campaigned on a promise to repair relations between police and minority communities, and now he's being largely criticized by the police union, who says that he is being insufficiently supportive of police. And we reported earlier that the union sent out a memo to the departments saying that we are now a wartime police department. So what do you think? Is this helping the protests, helping the police relations there with the minority community, basically telling them, the protesters, to suspend democracy just because one crazy career criminal decides to shoot two police officers? That's just like them asking everyone to turn in their guns because some mentally disturbed person decides to shoot a school or what have you. So you can't suspend democracy, especially when the issue isn't about being anti-cop. It's about calling for reform, and that's something that we've been calling for a long time here, and of course, the demilitarization of the police. Now, Rand Paul is planning to reintroduce a bill to do just that. The Kentucky senator is going to re-energize the debate in 2015, focusing on ending transfers of military weapons and vehicles under the Defense Department's 1033 program. Now, Rand Paul has previously slammed the militarization of police forces as stupid and ridiculous, saying that using the threat of terrorism as a justification is a tired excuse. Paul has said, it's supposed to be for terrorism, but try to explain to me when terrorists are going to attack Dundee, Michigan, or Fargo, North Dakota. And that's exactly what I've been saying. That's one of the things that I've been most pleased with these protests, is that now the 1033 program is right there for the entire nation to see. The entire country can see just what the 1033 program looks like. Police, your local police department, heavily armed, pointing guns at peaceful protesters from their military tanks, throwing chemical weapons at these protesters, chemical weapons that are banned for use in foreign wars. Now, everyone saw that. The country saw that. It was shocking. So that's why they had to send in the race baiters to swoop in and get everyone fighting amongst themselves rather than fighting against the militarization of the police, pointing out that why are the police arming themselves to fight the American people? And again, here we're seeing this after these two police officers were killed in New York. We're seeing the calls for a suspension of these protests, a suspension of democracy, because they want people to stop focusing on the fact that the police are arming themselves, are being armed to fight the American people. Now, just like they had attempted to demonize veterans and patriots, now the feds are attempting to link the arsonists and looters in the Ferguson protests to ISIS. That's right. Now, Steve Wigginton, the U.S. attorney in Southern District of Illinois, says posts on Twitter reveal an effort by ISIS to team up with not only criminals, but anarchists and sovereign citizens. He said, we received intelligence reports for law enforcement showing actual tweets ISIS was putting out, encouraging Americans to join the people who were burning down buildings in Ferguson, to engage that kind of conduct across America. They are trying to reach the people who are anti-government to begin with, and we have a number of those individuals in the U.S., whether they are sovereign citizens, whether they are anarchists, they all showed up at one point or another in the St. Louis area in the last few months. And an FBI special agent added that homegrown violent extremists will use the Michael Brown and Eric Garner protests to launch so-called lone wolf attacks. And that's exactly what we saw happening this past weekend in New York. But this is what Rand Paul is talking about, using this as an excuse to justify the 1033 program because terrorism. So they've got to bring it to the streets of America to justify militarizing the police departments. Now, some of the Ferguson protesters may be facing a lawsuit. Now, this is in the next few days. The Bloomington City Attorney Sandra Johnson expects to file criminal charges against the organizers of Saturday's protest at Mall of America. The mall went into a partial shutdown for about 2 hours as thousands of protesters filled the rotunda on one of the busiest shopping days of the year. The group Black Lives Matter chose the mall for its high visibility, but was warned repeatedly that it was private property. Now, the moment the chanting started on Saturday, officers locked down about 80 stores and several mall entrances. The city attorney is going to factor in the money that was lost to the stores, as well as the overtime paid to police, and she wants the protest organizers to pay. And police are now looking into the protest organizers' social media posts, as well as video from inside the mall, to see who was largely responsible for organizing those protests. So in recent weeks, we have seen a large corporation be brought to its knees, allegedly by the North Koreans. First, they were forced to negotiate with terrorists and cancel the release of the interview. But now also Sony has been embarrassed by the release of some internal emails, as well as employee payroll and health information. Now Sony has threatened to sue Twitter if it fails to stop users from sharing information that was hacked in the cyber attack. Now, Twitter has been sent a letter from Sony's lawyer demanding that any account sharing the leaked information should be suspended. And they also want Twitter to destroy any information that has already been published and prevent any further publication of it. So, of course, that is incredibly chilling. Here we have Sony negotiating with terrorists, and now they're inflicting Chinese-style internet censorship and wanting them to completely erase and destroy any leaked information that's out there. I guess they're going to have to wipe Google clean as well as the rest of the internet. So why Twitter? But now Sony, of course, backtracked on that decision to not release the interview. Can't let a good crisis go to waste. And of course, in this case, there's going to be a lot more money to be made now with so many people wanting to know just why the interview was such a big deal to Kim Jong-un, allegedly. Well, now they're saying that they're going to release it on video on demand, as well as in select independent theaters, including the Alamo Drafthouse here in Austin. We're trying to get tickets to that. Chairman and CEO of Sony Entertainment says, "We've never given up on releasing the interview." The chairman and CEO of Sony Entertainment says, "We have never given up on releasing the interview, and we're excited our movie will be in a number of theaters on Christmas Day. We're continuing our efforts to secure more platforms and more theaters so that this movie reaches the largest possible audience." So, of course, they cannot let a crisis go to waste. There is a lot of money to be made. There are probably going to be a lot more people wanting to see this movie than there would have originally, which, of course, only bolsters those people who believe that this hack attack was an inside job. Now they're going to be using it to get more eyes on their movie. And, let's hope that it really was an inside job, because do you remember this picture from last year? North Korea had Austin on the map. Austin, Texas was on the map. They were showing what appear to be missile trajectories pointing to American cities. But I highly doubt that North Korea has the capability of hitting the U.S., just like it is a country that has a really difficult time keeping its electricity on and its notoriously bad internet. But, of course, they hacked into a huge corporation and brought it to its knees. Well, coming up, we know that the trendies will do whatever is the latest fad. This time, apparently, it is eating bugs. But first, Fed Chairman Janet Yellen has been playing footsie with our interest rates. So we're going to go ahead and take a look back at the real message from the privately owned Federal Reserve about the U.S. economy.
Sold out for weeks due to the difficult and extensive proprietary process behind its creation, the exclusive INFOWARS Life Secret 12 formulation is now back in stock in the last limited shipment of 2014. The most bioactive form that has been created with our proprietary process. This ultra-clean vitamin B12 nutraceutical has been carefully crafted and developed over the last 2 years and is based on cellular science of how your body actively absorbs essential nutrients. Secret 12 is taken by mouth, right on the tongue, and then swallowed. No needles, no injections. Vitamin B12 deficiency is linked to scores of serious problems. And Secret 12 is a fusion of 2 organic proprietary forms of vitamin B12, bringing you a true nutraceutical quality vitamin B12. Secret 12. Secret 12 is an excellent Christmas gift and is tailor-made to boost your New Year's resolutions. Supplies of Secret 12 are very limited. Secure yours today at InfoWarsLife.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139. 2015 is almost here, and with it comes those New Year's resolutions to finally transform your body the way you want it. There's a reason over 88% of New Year's resolutions fail. Make this year different by equipping yourself with Oxy Powder, the next level in cleansing the body naturally. Using super oxygenation, Oxy Powder, available through InfoWarsLife.com, gently cleanses the body while you sleep with easy capsules. Tens of thousands of individuals have used Oxy Powder to cleanse their bodies and aid in their transformations. Even InfoWars Nightly News Director Rob Dew has been using Oxy Powder with incredible success.
Took it that first day, and then I took it for 6 more days after that. 12 pounds melted off in about a week. I'd say a week, 7 days.
2015 can be different. Diet and exercise are important, but a lot of us have already tried that. Oxy Powder flushes it out. Secure your Oxy Powder at InfoWarsLife.com. That's InfoWarsLife.com or 888-253-3139.
The top 1% own about 38% of the financial wealth of America. The bottom 60% own 2.3%. One family, the Walton family, is worth over $140 billion. That's more wealth than the bottom 40% of the American people. In recent years, we have seen a huge increase in the number of millionaires and billionaires, while we continue to have the highest rate of childhood poverty in the industrialized world. Now, a study which I've just introduced into the record by 2 professors from Princeton University, Professor Martin Gillens, and Northwestern University, Professor Benjamin Page, basically suggests that while historically we have considered our society to be a capitalist democracy, we may now have entered into a phase where we are an oligarchic form of society. In your judgment, given the enormous power held by the billionaire class and their political representatives, are we still a capitalist democracy, or have we gone over into an oligarchic form of society in which incredible economic and political power now rests with the billionaire class?
I don't know what to call our system or how to, I prefer not to give labels, but there's no question that we've had a trend toward growing inequality. I
think the point that the professors are making and others have made is that there comes a point where the billionaire class has so much political power. At what point is that reversible?
It's an underground hideaway straight out of a Bond film. 200 feet deep with walls of reinforced concrete, 9 feet thick. The survival complex has 12 stories of underground apartments and luxury facilities, each floor costing $3 million.
A bad bet to think that the government's going to be there to save you.
If oil prices were artificially inflated by the Fed, well, so were stock prices and real estate prices. So all these bubbles are going to burst because of the same pin, which is the Fed withdrawing the stimulus.
So let's consider what happened during the Lehman Brothers bankruptcy in 2008. That's the one that sparked the financial crisis, nearly melted down the economy, and triggered the bailout by the taxpayers. The court proceedings took 3 years, clearly not rapid or orderly. But Lehman was tiny compared to today's biggest banks. When it failed, Lehman had $639 billion in assets. Today, J.P. Morgan has nearly $2.5 trillion in assets. That's 4 times as big as Lehman was when it failed. Lehman had 209 registered subsidiaries when it failed. J.P. Morgan, I really almost couldn't believe this when I read it. J.P. Morgan today has 3,391 subsidiaries. That's more than 15 times the number of subsidiaries that Lehman had when it failed. 3 years to resolve Lehman. Now, J.P. Morgan has filed resolution plans in each of the last 3 years, and the Fed hasn't rejected any of them as not credible. Given our recent experience with the bankruptcy of Lehman Brothers, Can you honestly say that J.P. Morgan could be resolved in a rapid and orderly fashion as described in its plans with no threats to the economy and no need for a taxpayer bailout?
In fact, the firms have now submitted a third round of plans.
I'm sorry, Chairman. I'm just a little bit confused. J.P. Morgan submitted a round of plans in 2012, and my understanding is that neither the Fed nor the FDIC said that those plans were not credible. It then submitted plans in 2013, and neither the Fed nor the FDIC said they were not credible, and it has submitted plans in 2014. The plans are designed not just to be reviewed by the Fed and the FDIC, but also to bring some kind of confidence to the marketplace and to the American taxpayer that, in fact, there really is a plan for doing something if one of these banks starts to implode. You said that these plans run to the tens of thousands of pages. All I can say is that what's been released to the public is 35 pages long. That's about 1 page for every 100 subsidiaries that have to be dealt with. I think that the plans that have been released by these companies have not been something that the public can look at and say, yeah, I see that they've got a plan to get through this.
And people are talking about how falling oil prices are going to help the consumer. Well, look, oil prices fell from $150 a barrel down to $32 a barrel in 2008. That helped the consumer too, but it didn't stop the financial crisis. It didn't stop the Great Recession.
Do we all work for central bankers? That's what I want to address to our guest tonight. To answer your question, we are absolutely slaves to central banks, because, and we'd love to be slaves of the economy, but the economic numbers continue to do nothing but trend lower.
The Molon Labe Silver Coin, certified by the Provident Mint. This 1-ounce silver round is 0.999% fine silver, inspired by the legendary Spartan king Leonidas and his refusal to lay down arms in defiance of Emperor Xerxes. Molon Labe, that's Greek for come and take it. This is available now at InfoWarsStore.com. Act now as supplies are limited. And don't forget, free shipping and a free gift. That's InfoWarsStore.com.
For all of recorded history, civilizations around the world praised the health benefits of silver. At InfoWars Life, our mission is to bring you the highest quality, purest, cleanest, effective colloidal silver on the market today for the lowest price available. You don't have to be a doctor to know the fall and winter months are the most dangerous time of year in North America when it comes to you and your family's health. InfoWarsLife.com is very excited to announce our biggest run yet of Silver Bullet colloidal silver, exclusively available at InfoWarsLife.com. Now InfoWarsLife.com has taken colloidal silver to the next level using a cutting-edge technique that is free of toxic artificial additives. Now more than ever, it's important to stock up on high-quality Silver Bullet from InfoWarsLife.com and to help others during Christmas by teaching them about the powerful benefits of silver. Secure your Silver Bullet today at InfoWarsLife.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139.
Rob Dew from InfoWars.com here with a report, well, more of a prediction of what's going to happen in 2015. My prediction is that we're going to be eating a lot more bugs. And if you've looked at the news in just the last 2 months, it's filled with articles about how bugs are good for us and how they're a great source of protein and just really good for you, and the UN says to do it. But if you remember back in 2013, we put out a video called InfoWars Reporter Eats Bug at UN Request. And there you can see me chomping on a poor little grasshopper because the UN told me I needed to do it because I'm the problem.
The UN now says, why not eat more insects? Yeah, that's right. The Food and Agriculture Organization on Monday hailed the likes of grasshoppers, ants, and other members of the insect world as an underutilized food for people, livestock, and pets. A 200-page report released at a news conference at the UN's agency in Rome says 2 billion people worldwide already supplement their diets with insects, which are high in protein, minerals, and have environmental benefits. So why not give that to the Western world? Well, you know, they're going to lower our standard of living, so in a few years we are going to be wandering the fields looking for grasshoppers and crickets and beetles and anything to get that nutritional sustenance that we desire. And it's an inherent desire. My dad's been to China several times, and he has always made this observation. I don't see any stray cats. I don't see any squirrels in the trees. I don't see any birds flying around the city. In fact, I rarely even see bugs, he told me, because, let me tell you, the people in China eat everything because Their food is controlled by the government. And when you have government control, you always have starvation, you always have scarcity of resources, and you always have the elites being able to circumvent any type of process, and they always get theirs.
That's right. Remember, you're always the problem when it comes to the UN, and therefore eating bugs is the solution. Here's another video we put out in March of 2014. Man buys pizza filled with bugs, and this is something Alex Jones and his cousin Buckley put together when they went to a fair.
Folks, we're going with the mealworm. My goodness, thank you so much, sir.
$13?
Great, $13 for a succulent. So these cost more than a regular pizza.
Yeah, they're $8 a slice.
So these are even more powerful. Thank you.
Yeah.
I do this only to prove myself. For Bill Gates, we can have more jets, and for Al Gore, I want to buy carbon taxes. Honey, do you want one? No. That is an extremist. Sir, please come over here. That was an extremist response, that young girl being horrified by eating bugs. It's a conspiracy that women ever breastfed their children. It's a conspiracy that IQs were ever above 70. It's a conspiracy that geoengineering is not a problem. It's a conspiracy that vaccines are brain damaging you or fluoride. The answer, ladies and gentlemen, to everything is
GMO mealworm pizza.
The GMO mealworm pizza, combining the best of Bill Gates' GMO. Ladies and gentlemen, in the name of trendiness, delicious.
Well, let's look at these articles. Every one of these articles except one is from December or late November of this year. Gizmodo. Are insects the future of food? Nordic Food Lab, a nonprofit culinary research institute, is on a 3-year effort to turn insects, the creepy crawlies that most of us squash without a second thought, into tasty, craveable treats. Have you ever heard of the conference Insects Feed the World? Well, it's a 3-day conference used to promote the use of insects as human food and animal feed in assuring food security.
Insects to Feed the World is the ambitious title of this first international conference on insects, and your program makes clear that the fledgling world insect community has big plans to make a contribution to sustainability of our food system and the global food supply.
Insects are chock full of protein and essential micronutrients such as iron and zinc. A single kilogram of feed yields 12 times more edible cricket protein than beef. United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization, FAO, became interested in the role of insects as food security about a decade ago after documenting the significant part that insects play in Central African diets. That's right, you go to almost any country outside the U.S., even Mexico, and they have mealworms, crickets, covered in different spices and stuff, but people do eat these as protein. And I'm not saying it's bad, but when the UN is telling you have to do it to save the planet, there's something up, and it's usually not anything good for the human race.
What we really need is an internationally agreed safety framework for the use of insects.
We are actively involved in drafting legislation on food and feed safety.
Next article from Mail Online. Grasshopper-crusted shrimp tacos with a side of scorpion guacamole. Upscale restaurants offering a menu that is crawling with bizarre bug delicacies. And this is how they roll things out. They bring them to upscale, trendy places and say, look at the trendy people. They're eating the bugs. You need to eat the bugs now. All right? You're probably already eating bugs, though, just to let you know. If you're eating hot dogs or any other processed food where they allow actually certain amounts of bugs and even rat droppings into the mixes that they make of these things. There's a certain allowable amount. So you've probably been eating all this stuff anyway. But now they're going to make you do it, and you're going to see it in all of its glory. Here's one out of Man Cave Daily. Get ready to eat insects. 50% of all television programs are now food programs. And they talk about now all these television programs are showing people eating bugs. That's the big thing, the big trend on these things. So you're going to see it on TV, then you're going to go to the restaurant and see it. It's the trendy areas, everybody's doing it, so why don't you do it too? It's all part of the mind control that the mainstream media likes to run on you. The most dramatic faces are pulled when they're asked to eat insects. He's talking about the people in these food programs. People who happily eat hot dogs at home, meaning they've consumed more insect and rat than sewer-dwelling mutants, but ask them to eat a bug and they react like a preschooler being asked to kiss a cockroach. Anyone squeamish about eating insects is going to have to get over it.
At this moment we have 7 billion people, and in 2050 we'll grow until 9 billion.
Right now we know that 70 countries in the world are in a state of dire food insecurity.
And forget the luxury of vegetarianism or avoiding animals because your imaginary friend doesn't like them. Pretty soon refusing to eat anything will be on par with having your own castle, which means it's not going to exist. People are going to be eating anything and everything. Scorpion on a stick, rat on a stick, anything on a stick. They'll sell it at a fair and you'll definitely be eating it. Here's another one. After the apocalypse, this is what we'd eat. This is actually a pretty interesting article. What would happen if there was a catastrophic event in the world? what would we be able to do? Well, there's a doctor that said we can actually, after we use all our canned food stockpiles and stuff, we can actually convert existing fossil fuels to food by growing bacteria on top of them, and then we either eat the bacterial slime or feed it to rats and bugs and then eat them. I guess all is not going to be so bad if there is an apocalypse. Now, here's our last article from November. These are all from December, November. Should you be eating crickets? And this talks about cricket flour. This is a new thing people are making, and they're cooking all kinds of things with it. It is gluten-free, though, by the way. So for all you health-conscious people out there, might not be a bad idea to get into cricket flour. And here's a word you're going to be hearing a lot in the future. Anthropoentomophagy, the use of insects as human food, the answer to feeding a growing global population in the world whose climate is going bonkers. And just to let you know, this is going trendy style. JetBlue is serving now cricket protein bars to passengers. So JetBlue is definitely the trendiest airline, although I do like them because they offer you to get one bag on for free. Now they're serving cricket bars. What does that mean? Insects are coming into the mainstream here in the United States, and don't be surprised that any restaurant you go into in the next few years is going to be having, and especially in 2015, is going to be having these things on the menus. Now, whether people eat them or not, and whether this thing becomes a moneymaker, that remains to be seen. But one thing is for sure, they are going to be pushing this on the people.
I had an agency within the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and our whole interest is ensuring food security for the United States and for the rest of the world as well.
And if you ever have seen the film Snowpiercer, which is kind of a collectivist dream of people being stuck on a train that travels around the world in a giant loop, these people are eating protein bars, and when they finally break through to the other side and see what's behind the curtain, they find the protein bars are actually made out of mashed up insects. So it's definitely not a far-fetched plan out there. The UN would love to see us all feasting on insects while they're eating beef and chicken and pork and all the other meats, while we're left eating insects. That's all we have for this report. If you like this and other reports, please consider becoming a member of prisonplanet.tv. And you could get a membership right now for $29.95, and you could share that with up to 20 people at the same time. So what are you waiting for? Please log on to prisonplanet.com and become a member today. Thank you. This has been Rob Dew reporting for InfoWars.com. We'll see you next time.
We do what's trending. That means jumping off a cliff, we do it. That means turning our guns in, we do it. Whatever the government says, we do it. The state runs our lives. The state runs our children. The state is God.
That's it for the show tonight. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you here again tomorrow at 7 p.m. Central.
In the past decade, we have witnessed unparalleled scientific discoveries in the area of health. But no one has put together a formula that focuses directly on brain health, nerve growth factors, and optimizing your cellular energy at the same time. DNA Force is one of the most expensive formulas to produce. Some of the ingredients in DNA Force are $12,000 a kilogram. We are using the coveted, patented, only American source of PQQ, CoQ10, and more. You want the best that's out there at the lowest price anywhere? Well, we're bringing you a total win-win. The ultimate value, cutting-edge, trailblazing game changer that also supports the InfoWar. We have produced a limited run of DNA Force, and it will take up to 12 weeks to produce more once we sell out. Secure your DNA Force today at InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139. DNA Force from InfoWars Life.
You are watching the InfoWars Nightly News, which airs 7 p.m. Central at InfoWarsNews.com. Members can share their passcodes with up to 11 other people, and your support is helping us defend liberty worldwide.